Hello guys, Fru here. Welcome to today's lecture. So guys, in today's lecture, we're going to be looking at module 8 of our series, Python for Beginners. So today's lecture is really going to focus around I/O operations within Python. So I/O stands for input output operations in Python. And we're going to be working with text files within Python, looking at how to read from a file, write to a file, append to a file, and all the types of operations you might want to perform on the file sitting on your operating system. And that takes us into the next concept, which is talking about operating systems, operations. So creating directories, deleting directories, changing directories, deleting a file, all the types of operations or commands we might want to use Python to perform on our operating system. The specific operating system or OS that I'm going to be working with is Windows. That's why I'm writing this code and running through these examples. But guys, with very minimal tweaks, you can run this on, say, Mac OS or Linux environment if that's what you have working with. So you should be able to follow along if you're using any of those different environments with very minimal tweaks along the way. That said, we're going to switch gears into our working area. I have this simple code, which is really a follow-up that we did from the previous lecture. I believe that was module 7, where we looked at flow controls. And if I go ahead and I run this, let me actually run it. Area 1. So go ahead and run this. What this code was doing was it was asking for an input from a user where we can type a name, and if I say John for as an example, it's gonna keep asking me to type a name until I say Fru, and then it can print something out on the screen. All right, so this was just an example we did, and the whole idea here was to see how we can take input from a user, take an input from a user and do something with it within our Python code. Now, there are several ways to take input from a user. One way is to do what we did, but the second way, or the more common way, is people have data that sits in files, right? It could be a text file, it could be a CSV file, a comma separated, it could be a tab file, and just many more types of files. And we want to see how we can take all of that data and bring that into our Python code so we can actually make sense out of it, so we can actually start using Python to process that data. So we're gonna take a quick look at a very simple example of being able to read a file from Python. So what we're gonna see here is how to read a file, a CSV file from Python. And I have a file sitting on my desktop environment. That file is in this location. I know for sure because I checked it out before this call and before the recording here, where I know the file location. Just bear with me to type it up here. Is that's the file location I have on my machine. So somewhere within PyCharm's projects library dataset. And if you clone my Git repository, you should have access to this as well. So just go into the practice library, search for datasets, and go in there. You should see CSV, customers.csv. All right, and once you have it, wherever you store it, you can use that same path. Now I have double spaces here. It's just a convention within a Windows environment. For Linux, yours might be a little bit different, so you can just check for that online. Now I know the file location, so what we can do here is we can go ahead and just simply set a variable and say call it file location. All right, and that file location will be equals to this. All right, so pretty straightforward stuff at this point. Now what we're gonna do is open a file, right? We want to read customers file. This file has information about customers and we want to read it. So we're gonna simply say customers equals to, we're gonna open, right? As you can see, it tells us what we want to do is give the file name and the mode of operations. So the file name is gonna be file location. Let me actually say file path. I think that's a better description of that variable. All right, because it's a specific path to the file, and then we can say we want to read this file. All right, and to say we're trying to read this file is we're simply using this command to open the file and to actually read it. Then now we can go ahead and print all that records that we read to the screen. All right, we're simply gonna do read. So let's just recap. We have a file which we've set the path. We're simply creating a new variable to say open that path I can take this and put it in here, but for now let's just use it as a variable, and we're gonna read that file. So if I run this, all right, so it actually runs, and you can see the results of that file that's being printed to the console. So if I open up that file in Excel or in Notepad++, this is what we're gonna see in that file. All right, so Python can read data from files that are sitting on our desktop. So let's actually name this as read.csv file. All right, very simple, very straightforward. Now, what if we wanted to go ahead and write to a CSV instead of just reading? All right, so we can simply do what we've done before. So we have let me comment out this code here. I'm gonna comment this out. So now let's copy this. Instead of just reading from a file, we actually want to write to that file. So I'm gonna copy the path that we have. I think we're gonna use that. All right, so the next thing that we want to do, since we have a path to that file, is to actually say our customers, just like the way we had it before, equals to, again, we're gonna open the file like we did before, give it a file path, and in this case we're gonna be writing. So we're gonna write is a W, so arrow is reading from a file, and then a W is to write from that file. So we're opening see how to write to a CSV file. So we're gonna copy what we did before, which is basically, let me just copy everything from here. We have our file path. We're gonna open up the customer variable, and we're gonna print everything, but instead of reading this time, we're gonna be writing to that file. All right, so now we've opened up the file to write to it, so we're using W here instead of read. So remember, in read we were using arrow, in write we're gonna be using W. Now that said, I need to write some text into that file, and I have something here already done, so we're gonna use that. Let's just get that here on the screen. So we're gonna print some extra text to the end of that screen. As a matter of fact, we're gonna just actually overwrite everything in that screen, and then let's print out the results. But to print out the results, I need to open it one more time here for read, so we can print out the results. So if we go ahead and run this, you see it's added all of this to the end of my file. All right, it's actually overwritten all of that into the end of my file, and then we've also closed that file. Now, what if we didn't want to add it to the end and just overwrite everything in that file like the way write is doing? Right, what if you instead wanted to work with that file to append the results? So this takes us into the next piece here, which is to append to a file. So instead of just writing or overwriting a file, we instead wanted to append to that file. And the way we would append to a file would simply be to do something like this. So again, I'm opening up my file. Let me zoom in correctly. I'm writing something to the range, but here you notice I'm opening this as A plus instead of W plus. So arrow is for read, W is for write, A is for append. So if I run this, it's gonna be appending this text to whatever I had in the file before. All right, and if I have to run this and actually see results on the screen, I am going to have to set customers to, let's just set this really quick. Let's say file path, and we want a file path equals to that, so that should work. We run this. Now you notice I've appended to 21 all the way to 29. Now I've appended a bunch of things to it. All right, so once you open your file with A plus, you're gonna be appending to that file. All right, guys, so very powerful concept. And just to summarize, if this kind of seems like there's a lot of moving pieces here, this is the syntax that we use for that. So if we're trying to read, once you open a file with arrow, you're reading with W, you're writing with X, it creates a new file, right? If the file already exists, it fails. With A, it appends to the file. With T, is a default mode, it opens in text mode, so you can if you wanted to read, write, and all of that, you can do it with T, text mode. And then with B, opens the binary mode, plus we'll open the file for reading and writing, updating, and all of that. So depending on what you're trying to do for a file, you can choose the specific way in which you're going to be opening your file. All right, guys, so I hope this helps. This gives you some ideas. If you're working with a file, a text file, a CSV file, you should be able to access that file, open it up, read data from it, use that data within your Python program. Now we're going to switch gears here into the next concept, which is going to talk about 801. This is going to go through operating system actions that we can perform within Python. What are some of the operating systems actions that we can perform within Python? First, to do anything with operating system, we're going to need to import OS within our Python IDE. So if you don't have this imported, we might run into issues. All right, so now the very first thing that we're going to see here is the ability to change directories. All right, how can we change directories within our Python, or figure out the current directory within Python? So I'm going to define a new variable here called current dir equals to, since we've imported OS here on the screen, I'm going to leverage that. I'm going to say OS dot, all right, and it's going to be get CWD, which stands for get current working directory. And if I go ahead and I print current directory, right, it's going to print my current working directory, and this is where I'm currently working in sandbox, which is where this script is located. So this brings it for us. So you can imagine trying to figure out your current directory, and then you might want to get some data from there. This should be able to handle that for us. All right, so let's say you didn't want to use this as your current working directory. You wanted to set something else as your current working directory, and the way we'll do that is we're going to define the path that we want to set. So let's go ahead and set file path to be equals to some value. So file path equals to this value. So next step that we want to do is to again leverage os.set, right? OS has a whole lot of functions that we can leverage, all right? Or we can say os.change directory, all right? And now we want to change the directory to file path, so we're going to change to this directory, all right? So if we go ahead and run this, so we change it to that directory, and then now we're going to print our current working directory. It should no longer be the PyCharm this, it should change to whatever we've set here on the screen. So let's simply try that. All right, unfortunately it did not change to what we've well, the printing is just off because of that. So let me actually go ahead and print os.get current working directory. I think that's a better way to put it, so we don't have that issue. All right, so now you see we're looking at the data sets directory, which is what we've changed into. So just imagine going to the command line and you're able to change to different directories. Guys, we're able to do that within Python using the operating system commands, right? Instead of changing directories, what if we wanted to list everything within a particular directory? Guys, we can also do that. So what we can do here is run the command. Let me actually just print it out here. os dot, you can see OS has a lot of commands, right? The one that we're looking for is going to be list directory, all right? And then how about we just list the current directory? So os dot get current working directory. We're just going to list everything within my current directory. Not a lot in there, all right? So I have a folder called backup, and I have a file called custom.csv, which is the file that we've been working with in the examples. So guys, there are a lot of things that you can do within your working directory, again leveraging Python. Now what if instead of just listing directories and such, we wanted to create a new directory? So let's go ahead and see how we can create a new directory, and the command for that would be let's do os dot make directory, and we can give it a directory name, and this name will be called demo there. All right, so let's just call that directory demo there. And if you go ahead now and run this command to print all the directories, so you see now I have a new directory here called demo the demo directory. All right, and then we can go ahead and switch into that directory. So we can go ahead and change into demo there. All right, so to change directory, we already know how to do that. Now is to change directory. I'm gonna do file path. So this is where we are, plus, so we're gonna change into demo demo underscore directory. All right, so let's change into that directory. And while I did, let's actually list everything in that directory, because there's gonna be nothing in there. I kind of expected that, because we need to specify that. Oh, okay, so demo there one. Okay, that's already been created. All right, so I think it's created the directory already, and not simply seeming to like that. So the directory exists. If I go ahead and comment this out, I think that should be fine. Let's just create a new one here too. All right, so I think it creates it already, and it's trying to create it again. But basically, you see, I wish I can show. Let's actually do a list to see that we've created all those directories. So you see, all those directories have been created within my Python area. So we have backup, we have the demo there, and we have I deleted demo there too, but we should have all the other directories that are available to as well for us to use. Okay, that said, let's see how we can go ahead and remove something within Python, within the Python environment, using our Python script. So I'm just creating a new folder in there, and I've called the folder 3. So if I go ahead and I run this, all right, so you're seeing this file here called customer CSV3. I just created that using the Windows Explorer. So now if I want to remove that, we can simply again leverage the OS command, and that would be using the remove command. All right, and since this is my current working directory, I can simply say remove. Let me copy this so we get it exactly right. It can be tricky sometimes. All right, so if I go ahead and run that, it's removed that. Now if I go ahead and print just that, you see it's deleted everything in there. Well, it's printed my current working directory, but there's no file that I have in there to list. All right, guys, so very powerful tools you can use. There's a lot that you can do in your current directory simply by leveraging Python commands, right? You can list items from your current directory. You can get your current working directory. Let's actually, instead of just fully getting current working directory, we can list the current working directory, and there's a lot of things that you can do within Python. So I hope this was helpful. I hope, guys, this was helpful. Not only can you get users from get input from a user, but you can start leveraging these operating system commands to work within directories, get data from a directory, create a new directory, get data from a file, write data to a file, and a whole lot more of things that you can do. So just to summarize, the operating system commands, we can do IO operations, and we can do OS operations. And below you'll find my code to make this run on your environment. If you're getting this from GitHub, just customize this to run on, to point to wherever you have these files within your environment, and you should be able to interact a little bit more with this on your environment. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. This has been Fru in today's lecture, looking at IO operations within Python. Our next lecture is going to take us into looking at some data science operations within Python. We're not going to go full-blown data science, but this should give you some ideas about what do data scientists do when they say, all right, data scientists need to learn Python, what does that mean? And hopefully you can start getting an idea of why Python is very important for data science. And we'll be covering that in our next module, which is going to be module 9. So thanks for joining. This has been Fru, and I'll see you in our next lecture.